Oh,
So, hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Lisa. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on. It's just brilliant. So, we have had a bit of a chat prior, but my whole aim of speaking to you today and the past and future guys is to get vulnerable, real, and raw, because I want to see your perspective of where you've been in those dark places, because I really want to shine a light on, what you guys experience, why you find it maybe in the past you've struggled to express, and how, if you have, which I know you have, overcome some of those challenges. So yeah, like I know you've got a really big story, and I know we've
The
only got
stories just come real, come real fast, yeah.
But this can be 3 million parts. No, I'm joking. It can be more than one part, but we're on a time limit, and that's okay. So tell me, where have you been, Steve? Where have you been, and where have you come from? And yeah, big question. Like,
So if from the beginning, I had a pretty good childhood. I had we didn't have a lot, but enough. We had enough. We had a roof over our heads. I felt loved. I had both my parents were together. So I had a lot of things going for me. Like if in terms of my own development and safety and things like that. But then, I suppose early, I don't know. I suppose I had a tendency towards excitement. Then say that I noticed that more so than others. I liked to do things and try and get away with it. And the more that I got away with, the sort of better that feeling was. I wasn't very good with my emotions. I was good with the excited ones. Anything to do with excitement, I was always down for that. But if it was ever it's okay to cry, or there was none of that narrative or anything like that growing up. It was always overridden by anger or overridden by something, another emotion. That was sort of how I rolled.
Yeah. So did that come from somewhere? Was that did you believe that was a learned behavior, maybe from a parent, or is it that you were told that you weren't supposed to do this, which led to that anger?
I wish I sort of maybe I had some aggression around, but not in the way that I expressed it. So it was different. I think that's just the way I was, or the way I became, or the way I sort of I looked at my environment. I went, I think I need to be like this to survive it. I don't know. That's just it. Just sort of evolved. I don't think anybody sort of told me how to be. I think I just was, and that was the start of a really dark path.
Okay, cool. Tell me more.
Oh, well then, so high school was, I struggled with my education. I had a terrible memory and a terrible memory. I couldn't retain information, and I've now been diagnosed with ADHD. But I just if it didn't interest me, I'd muck around. I'd muck around. I'd just be a dick, and I'd disrupt the class, and then and then I'd create excitement. That's sort of how I rolled looking back, and it was great.
I love that, because it's quite interesting you brought up the whole ADHD thing, or ADD, whatever the labels may be. But what I do know now is, and I think that you sort of get it as well. If you're not living your priorities, then you're challenged, and then that's when you react or act. Definitely from what I've observed with myself and others. And I think that it's a great reminder moving forward for people is to live your highest values. I mean, we put in this system, right? And just, you know, different things interest us. We learn different things, but we're not taught that that's okay, in my perception. You know, and I sort of hear that from you. It's like, oh, okay, I can't get that maths, you know, equation, so because it's like it's so boring and I just want to be outside kicking the footy or whatever. So I'm just gonna shit everyone in the class and annoy someone until, you know, I get sent out. Actually, that was my story. Like,
No, like, well, we have something in common. Yeah, no, that's so. Yeah, I was just a shit. I was just a shit like that. And I don't know, like when I sort of think, where did things really go wrong? I suppose like I didn't think I was a bad person or anything like that. I just thought I was me, and I got into a relationship with my partner, who I love dearly, but it just didn't work. We just didn't work. She had 3 children to another partner who was deceased, and like I wanted to be the knight in shining armor. I've always had this thing of rescuing people. I didn't know that when I was doing it, and I've only sort of known this the last couple of years when I've, you know, been doing work on myself. But I've always tried to save people, because if I'm saving somebody, then I don't have to deal with my shit.
Oh, so, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was me to a T. And then I just lived this really addictive life of work, and if I was busy working and doing that, then I was constantly distracted. I was constantly in an excitement, but I was on the inside. I was sort of depressed. Just because that wasn't really my thing. I was just trying to live up to like my parents' expectations about having a house and having those things, which is not like an uncommon thing. It just wasn't. When I was being true to myself, it wasn't my thing. That's all. Like, I still think it's important, but it's just I couldn't cut it, mate. I just couldn't cut. I was doing 7 days a week, and I was working so bloody hard, and the things that I really cared about, which was the kids, you know, got, you know, this B grade shitty version of myself. And then I just, you know, it'd break my heart, and then I'd be angry because I was tired, or, you know, in a minute, I'll just hang on, I've just got to organize something on the phone, and then you can then I can be present with you. And that just always frustrated me. And you know, then we lost a child, and then that, you know, that's when I needed to reach out, didn't. And that's when things got hard for me. When I look back, that's when all my perspectives shifted. I became really selfish. I took on a drug addiction, but like I pretty much checked out of all my responsibilities. And just ran this life of crime and violence, and that's how I rolled for a good 3-4 years.
Okay.
And,
so you were working 7 days a week. What was it, your business?
So I had a carpentry business, and we were doing well, but I was just run off my feet. I didn't have a lot of support, and that's
And so when you lost a child, you started to numb it with dogs?
Like I started to. Well, I needed to function, and I was grieving at the time. I didn't realize what that looked like. You know, I'd only ever lost family members and people that have lived a life, and I've got memories of them, and like that felt natural to me. But losing a child before they're born felt unnatural to me. And I was sort of like driving home from work, and I'm like, you know, thinking about, like, I'm going home to feed the baby because that's what you do, that's natural, and that's not going to happen. And I'd be, I don't know, I was furious at the world. I was furious at God. I was furious at, everything. I was just anybody. I was furious at everybody. So I just didn't know how to deal with that. But I was also a very private person, so I didn't have people to sort of say, look, you're just grieving. It's okay. Let's just talk about it. It was just, I just tried to handle everything myself, which was, probably it was to my own detriment.
Yeah. So when you say, well, you still work, I just want to get clear, because this is really, I believe this is brilliant, because this is what I want to, extract from you guys, you guys, were you still working when you had your drug addiction? Like, you were functioning?
So I'm what they call a high functioning addict. Yeah. So I can still function and be a heavy user of drugs. Yeah. So that's what I did. They were there to do a job, and that was to keep me awake and also to suppress any feelings that I had towards. This is all on the back of not knowing that I'm ADHD and all that sort of stuff, and like the way that works. With the way that a street drug works on an ADHD brain is it slows you down, not speeds you up. So these are all these learning. It's like just the most destructive way of learning about yourself. But that was my life.
Oh, I love it. I know that sounds crazy, but I love the fact that, we're human, right? We have to experience some of these things to get the learnings we need out of it to make the changes in not only our lives, but others' lives. And that's definitely what you've done. And I know that. So, okay, so you were high functioning drug addict,
working,
the shit out of everything. Yeah. I look after a family. Cool. And then what?
I just checked out. I just checked out. I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not. I'm just family. I just checked. I didn't stop working, but I was just like, I was just under so much stress. I had a big job go to shit in Toorak, which is like a high class area in Melbourne. That sort of was sending the business side of things under, and I was sort of just like, driving around on drugs, just thinking, just piss on me, it can't get any worse, I'm grieving. My business is falling to pieces. Everything that I'm supposed to be or thought that I was going to be is gone. I don't even have that. Like, I feel good about myself. Nothing. Like, there's, things were very, very dark for me as a person.
Okay. And then what?
When did it turn? Like, so after losing everything, it was after I don't know, I think my attitude just eventually changed after losing so much.
Yeah.
That was the big thing I noticed, the shift in my attitude. I stopped being so selfish. Instead of I stopped being a victim about like, oh, it's me, like, poor me. I've been through this trauma, and I lost my child. You don't know what I'm going through. All that stuff. To what can I do to change, or how can I fix this, or how have I been making everyone else feel while I've been grieving?
So what was the moment that you went, oh my God, like, what was it? Something specific? Like, I know you said you lost everything, but like, were you sitting in the gutter? Were you like, where were you when you?
Well, so I was at a place called Green Cave. Well, I was at a camp called Saltwater Camp with a group called Hard Cuddles, and I went to a place called Green Cape where there was like a lighthouse. We did some sort of ritualized narrative therapy where I was asked to say my goodbyes to my son, and just as a part of like, because I'd never done something like that before, and they were like, oh, you know, it's cool, and because I was a violent person, I was sort of like, well, if anyone laughs, like it's on, and you know, as long as you're prepared that, like, if I expose myself and somebody makes me feel weak or or anything like that, I'm going to attack them. And look, and that was just my mind, and nothing like that happened at all. It was beautiful, and I got supported through my vulnerability, and it was over the course of that camp. I went to a place called Green Cape, and I don't know, I was staring out at the ocean, at the abyss of the ocean, watching the sunset, and I just sort of went, you know, like none of this is. I need to do something different.
I love it. I felt that. I got goosebumps. I felt that shift. Like, it was beautiful. Yeah. So even though that was a long time ago, I still feel the feels. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was such a big internal shift just within myself. And it was like all of a sudden, all the heat and all the needing and all the huge emotional drives to be an addict fell away. You know, they're still there, but like the charge was gone, and I was like, now I feel like I can manage it. I feel like I can manage my addictions and my impulses and all, you know, the thing to be naughty, and like, I think I can manage all that stuff now, and that's what happened. Looking into the ocean. That's where it happened.
I love it. I want to go. It's just beautiful. Like I said, I felt the feels. You know, it was so good. And anyone that's going to listen to this, I'm sure you'll go, got that. I want to go back because you said you were really violent. So hard cuddles. Where did that come from? Like, what was how did you get there?
So hard cuddles was the founder, James Harding, wrote a book. He was ex-Underworld, you know, he was a standover man, you know, in the underworld, so to speak, which, like anybody in the drug, like deep entrenched in drug addiction or anything like that, is the underworld. That's how it rolls. And we got along like a house on fire. He wrote a book, and one of our family members read a book and just said, "Oh, why don't you?" You know, even though I was a shit, everybody was still like, we want Steve to win. We want Steve to be okay. So like, it was the support of my family that just sort of said, okay, look, just go. Look, we don't get it. We don't know how to help you. We know you're different to us, and we know that anything that we say, you're going to do the opposite. And so why don't you go talk to this bloke? And I went, all right. So went and had a chat with James, and we hit it off. And it was that connection thing. And it was the non-judgment thing, and it was talking to a bloke without being, without feeling weak.
Yeah.
That was huge. Like, that was for me huge. That was a hurdle I needed to get over. And once I got over that hurdle, it was sort of like this down the rabbit hole sort of a thing. We started doing speaking gigs, and my story was sort of used as, you know, as I was the poster boy for this, you know. So my healing was very what's the word? Publicized. My healing was very publicized. So which was good and bad too. Like, I've mixed emotions about that. Like, it was good for everybody else, but I still feel like that was you know, I'm still not completely okay with the self-judgment part of that. You know, like, you know, I don't think everybody gets to present the worst version of themselves, and everyone gets to look at it. Like, it, you know, be a very that's anyway, that's just how I feel. But it was good.
It's very interesting because I mean, I think that's what holds a lot of people back, is like that. Well, here we are, you know. This is the whole point of having these conversations with guys, is to help them understand what they can do to start that journey of whether it's being vulnerable, real, raw, like whatever that looks like, to be able to get to the root cause of why they're doing what they're doing now. And I'm sure that there's more work that you could do, as like, oh, hello, there's just layers and layers and layers to overcome, and we have only this lifetime to do that. And there's so many moments in an experience, it's never going to be possible to overcome everything. Again, we're human, here for a human experience. So but I really I want to also be able to help other guys to feel comfortable, like you did with you know, in that hard cuddles environment, you know, that so that's why I'm
so what comes up for me is permission, like self permission. That's I suppose the bigger, you know, I had so many opportunities to help myself or to go and get help. I spoke to many people along the journey, many counselors, many, you know, like many people along the way. I tried many things, you know, and I think if I'm being really honest with myself, there was, you know, if I was already going into this, any sort of healing or any sort of self-care or help, with this huge barrier that I'd put there all on her own, like I'm broken, you fix me, instead of like instead of like, you know, give yourself the permission to heal. That was permission, I think, is a huge, like, if you want to do it, you know, you'll do it, and if you don't want to do it, you'll think of an excuse not to do it, or there'll be some sort of talk there to say, you know, they're not going to understand, no one knows what they're talking about, you've done this before, like you've tried counselling, I've been to 3 counsellors, so that's now done, not I've found the right one, I've just tried 3 counsellors, like all that sort of stuff, you know. So like,
what do you think when was that for you, like just more talk, like what did you find challenging? Like you had 3 counsellors, okay, so why do you believe, yes, you may not have found the right one, but what did you find in that experience that didn't work for you? That's what you found.
So like because I would have my chat, I'd have my say, I was heard, I was listened to, and then I'd have to leave, and then my life isn't any different, you know. I'm still homeless, I'm still I've still got a drug problem, I've still got all these feelings, and I'm still trapped in my own narrative of what's going on, and you know, like I don't know, or no one was showing me how. Everyone was telling me what, no one was showing me how. And that was a huge, you know, the like the whole letting go process, like what does that look like, you know, and there's not like a textbook for it. It's sort of like, you know, it's an intrinsic path, and it's messy and it's ugly, and no one wants to navigate it because it's actually really difficult. But that's what those are the things that I just needed to be told I was okay. Like, what you're feeling, everything's shit, and it's okay, you know, because like that's where you can start that, but that's your starting point.
I love that. I love that because, you know, and I'm all for telling the story once. But let's not repeat it, because we're just marinating that story. So it's becoming like so ingrained that that's your story. But it's like, what next, you know? And it is okay to feel like shit and feel like your world's falling apart. It is okay. But it's like, well, how do I navigate the next chapter? Like, what does that look like? What tools can come into play? And it's not a 5-second, you know, fix. And because again, there's so many moments to an experience, whatever that experience is.
Mm.
Well, this is my perception, and what I've definitely experienced myself, and what I've also observed. But it's like, okay, when's enough? When, you know, I think too, from again, my observation is that people will go and see someone like once, and they'll, you know, feel good, like it's like the quick fix. It's the, you know, I'm okay until the next thing goes to shit. You know, just from my observation, is like this is ever evolving, ever evolving. So it's really very interesting. But I love that. Yeah, it is messy.
Yeah.
Life's messy. It's like this, like I love the term, you know, the big ball of wool, like this messy wool, and it's like unraveling the wool and untangling it, whether, you know, no matter what that looks like. And it's okay to be messy. There's lots of benefits of the mess, you know. Yeah, definitely what I've seen anyway, and again experienced. So so you unraveled the ball of wool slowly.
I did. Well, I suppose you have to go back. You have to go back to where things began, or where where things, you know, were spawned, I suppose, for to you know, and that's again, that's really messy and slow, and you know, that's what it was like. You know, behaviors, where did they come from? Beliefs, why did I think that way and believe that? Like, so I suppose, you know, my healing started when I started questioning things, and then like I kept things and discarded things that I actually liked, and like, so I was mucking things up left, right, and center, like, you know, things that I loved about myself that I felt like I had to give up, and then I'd toss them away and to try something else, and you know, that's not mine. It was for somebody else, just because I suppose I just felt really broken. I just felt really, so I'm like, oh, you seem to, like, you've got it all, I'll just adopt what you do, and you know, but I just had to be comfortable with my own darkness, and yeah, and I owe that to a bandicoot. A bandicoot taught me that. That was at the camp as well. Like you don't see him around very often, and then one like sort of sat next to us and sat under me chair, and I'm like, what is that doing? Like, and that's when I got introduced to animal cards, and I love animals, and I get a lot of my work and guidance through animals.
Yeah,
that's just a me thing. That's just how I connect best with you know, and it's never stuff that I really want to hear. It's always like stop laughing off your feelings. Like, you need to get back down into your work. Stop laughing at everything off. Like, I'm like, thanks, Kookaburra. Fuck you. You know, just little things like that. You know,
I love it.
But that's sort of like my way of doing it, and I think everybody's way is very intrinsic, and it's like that's the sort of part, by trying things, you sort of get to sort of work out, oh no, that feels right, that doesn't feel right, and just to be open that it might not be right because you're not doing it right, or be, you know, there's just so many variables to that, but like,
there is. I really believe power, knowledge is power, and taking the holistic approach. But what I'm hearing continually speaking to you guys is that, well, not in this environment, something that I already know, but I needed to delve deeper, like with other people, and see what was coming up for them that is not in a coaching session, for instance. But it's like basically living someone else's priorities, living someone else's values, you know, because that's how we feel that we've got to do it, because mum and dad want me to do this, mum and dad want me to do that, my dad did that, so I have to do that. So living by these past generational values, which And then there becomes, it seems that there's this continual suppression and then beating down, like you were saying, oh, you know, I just get angry and I'm not really sure why, whatever, but then something else would go wrong and then I'm angry, but I'll push the other bit down because I don't know how to deal with the other bit that I'm angry about. And then all of a sudden the big eruption, but underneath is like all these layers. It's like the, you know, like the layers of our earth, you know, and it's just, you know, that's just a metaphor, isn't it? Like then the volcano comes and then boom, you know, like, and we've got another layer, but it's all, yeah. And it impacts our foundations, and it impacts everything. Like,
very true.
I don't know.
Do we put too much pressure on ourselves? Like, I think we put it, you know, to do it right, to be a good mum, to be a good dad, to be a good sister, to get the right job, the right, you know, do we put too much pressure on ourselves? And like, you know, no one's really, you know, it might be showing up as anger, it might be showing up as depression, anxiety, whatever.
All of it, it's that oh gosh, I just lost the word. Compliance to like the outside world. God forsake you actually, you know, do what you want and make that work, because it's not a 9-to-5 job, or it's not on the land because I've been given this 3,000 acres or whatever, you know, like that I have to do what dad once, you know, did, and like there's all these, you know, rules and regulations, and you know, whether that's ADHD, that's a label, that may be a thing, or it's just that God, you know, you're unable to live your highest values. Like I see it so often, and then, you know, let those people out and do that what they really want to do, and they're brilliant
and they flourish.
Flourish. I mean, I'm just looking at my grandson going, oh my God, what's going to happen when they try and keep him in a classroom? You know, he just wants to be out with his diggers and his trucks, and, you know, like, and he'll kill it with that sort of stuff, because he's just that sort of kid. But we've got this society, we've got to stick him in a classroom. I understand that, you know, that's what happens, but gosh, you know, I don't know, something has to change, but whether it will in our lifetime, I don't know. But, you know, we have all these labels, and then the medication comes, and then blah blah, you know. But if people were just able to live true to themselves and in alignment with who they really are, I think I believe that would make a massive difference. But, you know, maybe slowly that's happening. Well, is it happening for you, Steve? Now you've had all these epiphanies and these, you know,
well, like I'm a lot happier as a person. Like, so I worked out that a lot of my value system and a lot of my needs revolved around connection, contribution. So the whole rescuing thing, that was, you know, that was my need to, I just wanted to contribute. So that's how that sort of healed itself. So as long as I'm sort of like doing things for others, that internally makes me feel good. I feel valued. And that's sort of how I get around. So look, I'm doing a lot of that now, and look, I'm not gonna win any financial awards, but I'm happy, and I think I think that's what everyone's chasing. So like, if I'm being real, I'm really, really happy. I've had a taste of the working your ass off. You know, I did that for 10 years and it made me feel miserable. Now I'm doing stuff that's just very people based, and it's not about me. It's about it's about them. But I still get a fix out of it of some degree, and I feel connected. I feel like I'm a part of something. Lots of boxes get ticked instead of it just being a job. So, you know, if I weigh up the two, like what's more important to me, to Steve Kline, what's the contribution and doing things for other people, just it's non-negotiable, really.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Because it's like, now you understand your values, right? you know,
Yeah.
and some people finances are a really high value. Other
Yeah.
people connection is, other people, like for me, it's learning, facilitating, and our highest values. I'm not talking about everyone wants to be happy, but is that a fantasy? Because we can't be happy all the time, right?
No.
It's about being real about stuff, knowing that everything's going to come with a challenge, and that's where we grow. It doesn't mean it has to be bad, the challenge.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful that you have, and I know that you've done the priority questions, which helps you understand what you value, whether it be, you know, for me, it's those three are my highest values, but they come from our voids. Our highest values, what lights us up the most in the world, come from our voids from earlier on in our life. You know, I felt dumb, so learning is a really big thing, but it's then I had to realize what I wanted to learn, and that came from another void about issues I had with the body. So I'm like psychosomatic, so you know, they're the books that I've got around me, you know, about the mind, about the body mind connection, all that sort of thing. So that comes from my void. So it's like for you now, no doubt that you understand that your values of that connection, contribution, etc., come from some void in your past.
Yeah.
You know, and whether you recognize that the actual what happened or not, that's where it comes from. Yeah. So there's so much power in understanding that we don't have to just grind and live the life we've been told is how it is. You know, because that's, and what was doesn't have to be. And I think this is becoming more prevalent with these sort of conversations, and the clients that I get in, that, you know, they think it just has to be this one way, where it's not, you know? And you know, you're getting you know, so finance, you say that there's not a lot of finances, you know, like, but you're going okay, but that's coming to you in a different form.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, that's my struggle now, because of the choices that I've made. But like, if I'm weighing up like what's more valuable to me, I suppose that's what I'm trying to say, is that I just like they're non-comparable. So I know that I won't be able to give up now that I've had a taste of like being involved in the community and stuff like that. I can't give it up. So now I've been offered some jobs and stuff like that back in the building industry, and I'm like, nah. And they're like, oh, we'll pay you this. And I'm like, yeah, nah, like I'm good.
Okay.
Which, so it's not like there's no choice. I don't have a choice. I absolutely do. It's just, I just don't want it anymore.
It's like you said, that there's that the innate feeling of like, that's just not resonating, you know. Like I definitely know that, you know, every time I remember a mentor saying to me, I was like, oh, I feel like I need to get a real job. When I say real job, like a 9-to-5 job, or a, you know, we live near Canberra, so it's like, oh, do you need to go and get a public servant job and get paid great and you know, like go to your whatever. But then that's when it's like, no. You know, when I'm questioning that, she said, that's when you really that you know you're doing the right thing, pretty much. Like, because sometimes we have to question ourselves or get questioned to go, right, well, no, because that would be going against every single molecule in my body to go and do that, as much as it would be maybe nice for the rest of the family to, you know what I've got coming in every week and stuff. But for me, it's about impact. For me, you know, I witnessed my father suffer, you know, from depression for so many years, my whole life, actually. Who am I kidding? And then he chose to take his own life, and my brother found him, and then he chose to take his life, and prior to that, my grandfather, you know, and then there was almost me and almost my son. It was like, it stops here. It has to stop here. Like what? And you know, that led me to do what I do. And I can't not do this. Because I feel like the significance is like, it's really making, you know, making it, if I can make a difference in one person's life, as I know for you, make them smile, make them see things differently, help them understand, their priorities, help them understand that it's okay not to be okay, but you're okay as well, and to see things through different eyes. And that's what it's about for me, and one person, then the ripple effect that goes from there. And I know we're all pretty much on the same page, because I see you smile when you talk about what you do, and you can't pretend. You can feel that energy. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are the walking dead, because they're in careers that they don't love, or they're numbing, because it's like a good job, but you're earning a shit ton. But I just heard it the other day, you're having the heaps of nose beers, heaps of Coke and whatever, I thought that was quite funny. I just heard that. So but to numbing, and there's a lot of, from the sounds of it, a lot of high functioning, addicted people out there. I feel like sometimes I'm very high functioning sugar addict. Like, if I'm having a bad day or something's reminding me like that bitter taste, I need some sugar. So, I think there's, I don't know anyone that hasn't had some sort of addiction to something, whether it be sex, whether it to be the gym, whether it to be food, drugs, alcohol. Definitely had my challenges with alcohol. I was numbing, with alcohol, I was huge, over 90 kilos at my heaviest, and on antidepressants, so there was I was numbing from 3 different areas. So I get it. But that can also be environmental too. So I think and this is why I wanted to have these conversations with you guys again, as I mentioned before. But I'm seeing this pattern. I'm seeing what I thought, and it's that I feel like a lot of people don't understand that they're allowed to be who they were put on this earth to be.
We're definitely having an impact, Lise,
Thanks. And so are you, helping all those people down there bring smiles to their faces. And I say down there, guys, because Steve is in Melbourne, making a difference.
Having a crack like the rest of us.
Crack. And the thing is, what I do love about your experiences that you were challenged with, and probably have judged yourself for, and maybe still do with certain parts of it, and I definitely have too. But what I do know is that if we stay in that judgment, we're unable to help anyone. And we were given the gift of those challenging parts of our lives to be able to make the difference. And I know you've spoken on podcasts. I know you've done a lot of work with hard cuddles. You've been into the jails. You've spoken to people. To do that. I mean, how did you find that? Did anyone open up, like, when you did that sort of work? Or are you still doing it?
So I'm looking at getting back into it, but so in the prison, so we would go in at Ararat prison, which is like a protection prison. It's also a lot to do with child predators and stuff like that. But like, we didn't handle that side of things. We just handled the prisoners that are under protection. So a lot of them are, just violent or repeat offenders, violent offenders that have tapped out of another prison. So they've been bashed at another prison, or there's a gang after them in a prison, so they get moved to Ararat. That's how it sort of works. And we absolutely got a great response. Like, we didn't come in there as psychologists or as counsellors or whatever. We came in as just blokes off the street. Now, obviously, we had to jump through a lot of hoops to get to that stage. But like, as far as my own thing, James had all the qualifications and all the connections. I just sort of came in as like this, this half mended, broken bird that he just, and then he just threw me on a stage and said, just say it with your chest, Kline. You let it happen, and you watch. And so I just got up, I cried, I just let it out in front of 80 prisoners, and just just kept going, and just kept going through the uncomfortability and and the tears and everything. And then at the end of it, you know, everyone had something to say about their story and about their journey. And I think it was more that, like, yeah, we all go through this stuff, and it's hard, and we've all made mistakes, and you know, we're just bloody really hard on ourselves. And you know, like if we were more of a community about things, like if you know, if we had elders that we could speak to, like I felt very misguided as a teenager and as a child. If I had questions, or if I was doing the wrong thing and I just didn't agree with their narrative and did what I wanted to do anyway, there was still no one to sort of go like, okay, look, but this is where you're going. This is where you're going. If you continue down this path, you do it your way, mate. That's fine. But there's like, this is where you're going. And if someone maybe had said that to me, maybe, you know, things could have been different. Like they say, it takes a community to raise a child. So, you know, I think we've lost that. We've just we've got this thing with it. Your parents have got all the answers. And, you know, I'm a parent now. Like I definitely don't have the answers. My child's teaching me every day of how useless I am. But
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and I know that the kids are our greatest teachers, man. And because they're so, well, I think it was Leon the other day, was the innocence of them, and they're in that theta state where, you know, everything is play, and we forget that. Yeah. We lose that because we've got to, you know, it has to be this way or that way, or, you know, this is, yeah, we just lose it. I remember seeing this little, it's very random, but this little girl with her dad in a food court in Sydney, and she had her tutu on, and she was just dancing a storm, and it was just, I was like, oh man, you know. And I think maybe that's, you know, when we talk about the drugs and all that sort of thing, because that's sort of where it sends us back to, you know, it's, I don't care, you know, who's looking, whatever, I'm just going to dance and do, you know, all those unexpressed things, you know. So yeah,
I just felt like being me in this moment. I just felt like being me. Yeah,
man. I was just looking at this little girl going, wow, we just have all lost it as we get older, because we have to conform to society, what they say, yet society is just like this flood of bullshit where you just can't be you because you might offend someone. But I know if you offend someone, it's just, that's their shit and their wound that they have an opportunity then to go and heal. But a lot of people don't know that, you know. You don't know what you don't know until you know. So yeah, that's super cool, super cool. So what would you change in the system in our society if you had a magic wand? And I know you haven't, but maybe you do, because you're just doing you now, boo. You know.
I don't know, not to be one. I don't know, if there wasn't a system, if it was more free range. So like, you know, if, like you were saying with your grandson, like if his education was for a specific field, then like that's what we should be tailoring his education to. We shouldn't be, so he shouldn't be you know, indoors trying to read things off a board. He should be out getting to know the you know, the landscape of the land and things like that, because that's what that's where his values are. That's where he's going to gravitate towards. So, you know, I think we should be using the system to find out where we want to go, and then we should have places where we can go. And like, I don't think there's enough places for us to go, or there's not enough people working out what they need, or how to read, or how to guide. I think there's heaps of room for us to go.
Yeah, I know. Look, I just be in on that. I did some mentoring for Raise Mentoring, which is incredible. Like in one of the country schools here in New South Wales, my old school in Young, actually. And we went in and mentored year 8 and 9 girls. And the things that we did in that special class, because they were for challenge kids, you know, like whatever that looked like. What we did in those mentoring sessions is what I believe should be happening in the classroom from a very early age, because we help them understand how they learned, you know, that they visual, kinesthetic, auditory, digital, you know, all those different ways they learn. And that was so impactful because they realized that they weren't dumb, they just learned different.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
probably with you, like, you know, we go, if we and I say we, because I was the naughty one in particular in maths too. So because I couldn't learn like they were teaching me, and I'm visual and I'm kinesthetic. So, you know, I would have my hand up forever and the teacher can only get around to so many kids. And then I was like, so I start annoying someone and get sent out to do it, you know, like, so how many kids are there like that? Because they don't even understand how they learn. And we maybe it's different now, maybe they are starting to address that and teaching differently, so bringing all those things into it. But you know, when it's just on a whiteboard in, you know, no, I can't cut that. My daughter is visual and kinesthetic, she's a hairdresser, so she has to do and be, and you know, like she can't, like, you know, it's challenging for her to read something as me and get it. So I think if we could do more of that, maybe it would also help our society understand that they're not broken. No. You know, these kids are growing up, they're not broken, they just learn differently and they absorb information differently, and that's okay. It's just finding out what that is. So, you know, for me, I definitely think that is, I've banged on about that for a while. I think that would make a difference. And, you know, then you could adapt the classrooms maybe. I don't know, look at us solving the problems in the world, but you know, like maybe someone will
it's so big, isn't it? It's so big, but it just, it's got to start somewhere. I think we'll change a lot in the next 50 years. I think we're going to be, you know, the things that we talk about now will probably be the things of the future that, you know, that it started here in conversations like this, like needs to change. And then in a couple of generations time, it's all happening, and we might not get to see it, but it, you know, the legacy always starts somewhere.
I was thinking that exact word. It's the legacy. It doesn't have to be a financial. It can be just that, you know, that shift in thought processes and putting the energy into, you know, the future, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Steve, whew, that was just brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah,
I felt like I talked too much.
No, that's the whole point of this. It was brilliant. So I want to thank you, and I know that a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this. Okay. So yeah, I will finish it up there.
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you again.
No worries.